first place. Debbie, let's bring you back again, because you've been really looking at these citizens' assemblies and the dangers. And of course, this type of liquid democracy relies very much on this practice.
I have indeed, and it's going to be a case of careful what you wish for, because how many of us are ever going to trust a politician again? So what better way than to get the citizens to, we'll set the rules. How about we set the rules? Have a look at this video.
I'm here to say to you, hand on heart, that I did not lie to the House. When those statements were made, they were made in good faith and on the basis of what I honestly knew and believed at the time.
So who's it going to be that's going to be making the new rules? So I always go straight to the UK Column website to research, and I found on the website a reference to a wonderful Iain Davis blog, actually, called Sortition. This is, if you're not a member of the UK Column, you find absolute jewels in the forums. I really would recommend that you join up and have a look. But if we go further into Iain's article, we can see that this is a select by lot. This is a random selection to populate assemblies or to fill political positions, to deliberate on issues and to deliver collective judgment. So this is what sortition actually means. And he talks about the Sortition Foundation as being a transatlantic organisation with its offices conveniently in Cambridge and Portland. But back in 2019, the BBC were actually reporting on this and on about how 30,000 households had suddenly received a letter inviting them to join a citizens' assembly. Well, did you get a letter? And what can the public do to cut carbon emissions? So did you get a letter? Well, this little bit of video, obviously some people did. Have a look.
You could be one of over
100 people selected to take part in the UK-wide Citizens' Assembly on how should
the UK tackled climate change.
So this weekend is going to be about introducing you to climate change in a thorough way.
It was really exciting. To be told I was selected just seemed like a very rare opportunity.
Initially, I wasn't sure what it would be like, so I hadn't done anything like that before.
Perfectly honest with you, I didn't have a clue what zero carbon was.
I didn't know enough about climate change. I was open to information.
There were so many different perspectives and opinions. So many people of different ethnicity, different ages.
It was so nice to see, the representation of the UK.
The fact that you've given up time to come here and take this seriously is of the greatest importance.
It felt like the community kind of working together towards a problem that the whole world needs to face, to be fair.
Obviously at the moment we're all on lockdown.
Moving on to 3 internet weekends was quite good. We were still investigating things on our own. I'm not saying we're experts now, but we all have opinions.
Everybody's had the taste of this cleaner air. Surely most people would want that for their children and their grandchildren.
Well, if we treat climate change the same way as we're treating coronavirus, then we can do it.
We all want the government to take heed of our recommendations.
They need to act on it, but also to act on it fast. So it's not about saying, okay, we just keep deliberating over it over the next 1 year, 2 years.
They are by law bound to try to get to this target.
It's got to be done in a fair and positive way.
So if we don't act now, we're just going to run out of time and there won't be a future for any of us.
And if we can show that we can do it, then perhaps others will follow. I think somebody has to be a leader.
So we have actually got another piece of video, and I think we'll hold on to that for extra because there is so much on this. Because I want to go back to look at what Brian was looking at a minute ago, the path to net zero. And this document here is a joint endeavour between Parliament and people. It's written by Mel Stride and Darren Jones. But if we go further on into the report and have a look, we can see that they're looking at citizens having a crucial role to play. 108 citizens were given the space to understand or discuss what actions the UK should take. So why is it important? Well, in the next slide, it'll tell you that the Climate Assembly, the members are actually going to mirror the voice of the UK population. So that's you and me. And they've been busy organising these weekends in Birmingham. So when you see what they say, the members say, I mean, they think it's like they've won the lottery. I felt like I'd won the lottery when I got my letter. I'd be daft not to do it. It's amazing to get the chance to have a say and influence what may happen in the future. And I was in the army for 22 years, so I've not got a problem meeting new people. So this is why it's so important. But who are they selected from? Because, Brian's talked about the Sortition Foundation. Ben has talked about Sortition as well. And this is being selected by the Sortition Foundation. And here we've got a quote, I think, from Sir David Attenborough, because he's hugely supportive of this. So he's very grateful to the 110. I think we must have lost 2 somewhere, but he's grateful to the 110 people who came from all corners of the world to be part of this. So let's look at the stages that you have to go through. If you got your letter, you got the letter, you've been randomly selected, you're really intrigued and you've responded to it. Stage 2 means that you go through a computer random. So a random stratified sampling done by the computer. And then in stage 3, really, it's, how would you like to travel and what dates are you available? So that's the liaison and final replacements. So let's look at the assembly makeup and look at the document, because it's a very long document, but they'd say that they're taking people from all sides of the argument. There's a table there as well that if you go to the document, you can see where the members have been made up from. And the weekends seem to be a really jolly affair because they've had 3 weekends. This has all been going on behind closed doors, folks. I mean, I didn't know these things were happening, but they obviously have been. They had 3 jolly weekends, but as you heard before, the 4th weekend was cancelled because of lockup. So they had to do all of their work online. So there's loads of experts and facilitators that go to this conference. And please look to the document because there are so many. But I wanted to see who was involved from wider society. So who have they brought in? Well, we've got the Bishop of Salisbury. We've got the President of the National Farmers Union. We've got the Secretary General for the Muslim Council, Martin Lewis from the Money Saving Forum, the Chief Rabbi's there, the Archbishop of Westminster's there, the RSPB, even the CEO of the NHS. So there's a whole bunch of very varied people. But which organisations are involved? So we've got 3 that are involved in citizens' assemblies. We've got the Involve Foundation, and the Involve Foundation actually produced that piece of video about should we trust politicians. They're a public participation charity, and apparently they ensure that we get high quality citizens' assembly. Well, I'm not quite sure how we do that if it's random selection, but hey, perhaps someone else will make a comment on that. And then we've got the Sortition Foundation, which is not for profit and uses randomly selected people. And then we've got mySociety, which is a not-for-profit social enterprise, and they use data. They're very data-driven. So I always like to go to see who's funded this. Who's funded it? Well, it's been funded by the House of Commons, the Esme Fairbairn Foundation, the European Climate Foundation. This is such a big topic. I'm only skirting literally the top of it. And you'll see Rachel Reeves' name there. Hasn't she been busy? And of course now she's not part of this, but she was. So who are involved?
Debbie, if I could just come in very briefly, as you showed that weekend and the very influential people that are brought in, my mind was taken right back to the common purpose technique, which I observed and exposed many years ago, when people were effectively being controlled by being introduced to people that they would take at their every word. So if the local chief of police spoke to a small group, people would believe what he or she said to the audience on policing. The chief executive from the local council, MPs, whoever it was, came in. Of course, the audience of ordinary men and women was highly influenced by the people brought in. So these, to my mind, are highly controlled interactions once the computer has selected the individuals.
Absolutely, 100%. And perhaps in extra, we can talk in a little bit more detail about these three organisations. We can talk about Involve, we can talk about the Sortition Foundation, but perhaps we should end this segment really on how this is going to happen. And if we go right to the end of the segment, we can look at behaviour change, because that's where this is all coming from, of course, is behaviour change. And you'll see a slide with Professor Nick Chater from Warwick Business School. And Professor Nick Chater is organising this whole behaviour, the Climate Change Committee. You can see his picture there. And if you go to the next slide, he says, and I quote, "We, the citizens, see new rules as having wide support and adherence. The public have made decision through citizens' assemblies and haven't been imposed directly by government." So there's so much more to come on this, but basically we're looking at two-tier citizenship, because have you got a letter? I haven't.
It's pretty incredible, Debbie, isn't it? It's giving the illusion that people are actually fully involved in democracy, but the reality is that they are being controlled. And I note that in our chat box, one of our audience today started to talk about the Delphi technique. And I think that member of the public, whoever you are, was absolutely on the money, because the Delphi technique is the means by which the public is controlled in a room to produce the outcome that the organisers of the event want in the first place.